We thank you because it is you, God, that we have been afforded this opportunity to serve. And we give you the praise, the glory, and the honor for all that you do. Bless us in Jesus' name we pray. Thank God. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner McCaskill, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Krantz.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Tammy McCaskill,
Here.
Commissioner Justin Campbell,
Present.
Commissioner Will Jones,
Present.
Commissioner Rufus Forum,
Present.
Mayor Robbie Correa.
Present.
All members present and accounted for.
Thank you. Could you read the special call meeting notice, please?
Certainly. To Commissioners Tammy McCaskill, Justin Campbell Senior, Will Jones, and Rufus Forum. You're hereby notified that a special called meeting of the Palatka City Commission is hereby called to be held on January 26, 2024 at 1:00 p.m. at City Hall, 201 North Second Street, Block 32177. The purpose of the meeting is to interview city manager candidates and make selection.
Thank you. I'm going to open the floor to public comments. Is there anybody here for public comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comments and move on to regular business. Discussion of the scoring matrix, Ms. Jones. What's that?
So the matrix that I have given each of you a copy of is what we utilized in the past. It really outlines, if you looked over the resumes and stuff, different point values that you can give to each candidate as outlined based on experience and different experience levels in different divisions, such as capital improvement and all of that. So you would complete that. And then below that, you have the outline discussed as questions. You do have the opportunity on page 3, if there are questions that you would like to ask that are not listed on here, where you can write those questions in. I do ask that every commissioner would write the question, so we would have the same questions asked to both candidates. If you utilize those 3 places at the end to add a question in to be graded.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Jones about the matrix? Thank you. We're going to start with Mr. Van Tresco.
My question started with number 3.
Okay, why don't you ask?
Ms. Jones, before we start, my question is asked. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You know,
You're all set? Okay. All set. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Van Tresco. Would you kindly give us a bit of an introduction about yourself and let us know who you are and some of your experiences? And then we will ask you a series of questions.
Mayor Correa, microphone technique.
Yes, please hit the button to turn your microphone on. Thank
All right,
you.
with the blue, everyone hear me? Or do I need to be closer? That sounds good. First of all, thank you all for having me today. I appreciate it very much, the opportunity. My name's Fred Ventresco, one of your candidates, of course, for city manager. And just a brief, about myself, as the mayor asked. I have about 20 years experience managing local governments. I've worked in a number of different states, and all of the communities I've managed have been full service, meaning we've had all your standard departments, police, fire, water, sewer, what have you, all responsibilities that you normally would come by in a local government. So I've again, approximately 20 years experience doing that. I have a bachelor's degree in public management and business, and a master's degree in public administration and MPA. bunch of other credits when I changed my major before that. Before I have worked in a number of different fields beside government as well, before I changed my focus to public sector. And I've worked in banking, travel, tourism, economic development, university administration, and a bunch of, those are the main organizations and areas of the economy I've worked in beside local government. But anyway, the last 20 years, managed local government. Don't plan to do anything else. I love it. And looking for a place like Palatka to continue my my career, and hopefully the most important thing to me is making adding the much value as I can to the community I come to.
Thank you. Ms. Commissioner McCaskill, if you want to start with you with the first question, please.
Absolutely. Thank you for choosing us to want to start a career in, okay? You did a great job at giving us a brief profile of your work experiences, I'm sorry. And that kind of segues into my question. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, doing this. Definitely haven't changed for 20 years, and don't plan to. I love local government, and that's where I want to be. I would like to, and I hope it's with Palatka, but the next place I go to, I hope to be there in 5 years. Had some short tenures in my last 5 or 6 years just because of the nature of the communities I was in. That was their history going way back. But next 5 years, definitely doing this, and I hope in the same place than what I get hired for now. So
Thank you.
mhm.
Thank you. Commissioner Borum?
Yes, I'll ask, question number 2. Again, thank you, and thank you for your interest in the city manager position here for the city of Palatka.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, and my question number 2 is, where do you see Palatka in 5 years?
Where do I see Palatka in 5 years? Well, obviously, I've just started really looking at your community and really focusing in on it now that I'm interviewing for the position. So what I'm saying is, maybe a lot of small things I'm not aware of, but from what I can see from my due diligence and, over the last, since I've known I was going to get the position, especially the last few days, I think you're definitely a growing community. Looks like you're already running on all cylinders, as they say, but talking with everyone today also, and from what I see it as definitely you're a growing community. Definitely Palatka is a growing community, and I think it has so many avenues to go down simultaneously. Looks like you've got pretty much all sectors going right now, depending on what they might be. I see it continuing as a very place where you can come for anything you need. Looks like, again, you've got the shops and the retail, you've got some manufacturing, you got light industrial, you got a hospital, you've got so many things. And of course, we know Florida is an attraction for everyone now. And from what I've gathered, that this area is really starting to get the focus now. And again, I'm just saying this because I'm here, but looking at where you're positioned and everything, I think could be a very focal point of that interest in this part of the state. And I know the southern part is already kind of over inundated with population and growth and everything now, but looks like there's a nice pocket here where I think Palatka can really, and not that you aren't already doing that in a way, but to continue that effort on.
Okay. I want to pivot off of that, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
What do you specifically know about Palatka?
Palatka. Well, over these last, again, since I knew I was going to get an interview, I've been doing what research I can do, because I don't live in the state and in the area, of course. I know I know, I don't know, it's a specific area. It looks like you are doing a lot of really focusing on upgrading the city and in the last few years, whether it's infrastructure wise. I know, watched a couple of your council meetings there recently. And, well, you know, in general, I don't want to glue it around, but if there's a specific thing, let me know. But, you know, I know the population and that you're, you know, you're a focal point in the area. And, you know, you know, the makeup, know your budget, and your, you know, your general fund and that sort of thing, and the makeup of all the departments you have, your natural gas, you know, water, sewer, police, fire, and those sort of things. And again, looked over your, been reading over your economic development plan there and the things that you have focused out there. The thing that amazed me is it looks like you're moving forward with just about all these things. And I applaud you on that. So, but those are, I don't know if it's a specific thing, but that's kind of what I've done for research basically, is look over the budget and read your plan, your economic development plan well, and looked over your website as much as I could, a lot. Saw your list, which I thought was really informative on there, of the accomplishments you've made, or the projects, I should say, that are going on right now. Looked over all of those, whether they be, you know, looks like a lot's been going on, and just in, as I said, infrastructure and walking and that sort of thing. The thing I did notice listening to some of your council meetings is there, you know, the certain specific issues in town, just to show I've done a little research, and the transportation issue, I guess, in the north as of recently. And I was listening to that, you know, trying to get that up there. And again, just a lot of that you've been very successful in getting a lot of grants lately, which I thought was really great. Seems like you've got a plethora of them there, tons of them. And just really looks like you're going in the right direction, but also see a lot of things that are, heard them that you like to keep focusing on and going forward.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Commissioner Jones?
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Mr. Van Trusco, how would you establish credibility and build trust with the elected officials, department directors, residents, and staff upon your arrival as a new city manager?
How would I build trust? I think the best way that I've found in my career to build trust is to, one, lead by example, showing that, you know, you are part of the team. I like to focus on a team environment where we're all working together as one. So I think I've found that building trust works through my leadership style, which is a collaborative style, and a style that does focus on the team effort. I want to hear from everyone. I want us all to contribute to the lead to the community, and but I think establishing trust, some of the keys of that would be to be a person of your word, getting back to people on time, following up, whether it be citizens or, of course, the staff that I work with, you all, of course. Being a person who's, I won't call it an absentee manager. You're there always, you're accessible, you got the open door policy. And that's been my practice from day one of my doing this. So those things, showing my work ethic, I guess what I'm saying. And I'm responsive. I'm also knowledgeable, and am there to hopefully give you guidance and advice or whatever you might need, or and getting back and, you know, following up, and so establishing trust that you can depend on me, and that you know, as for staff purposes, that I am you know, we're, you know, I'm not just a leader telling you what to do, but we're all working together as a team.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Campbell?
Good afternoon. What is your experience in dealing with the media, television, newspaper, radio, Do you view media as a positive force? If so, how?
Uh, Well, in every position I've been in is managing local governments that's been my responsibility, more or less, along with the mayor, of course, in some cases, to be the focal point or the main contact for the media. I think it's a positive opportunity, because number one way or another, you're going to have to face the media, and I think that the way I've tried to nurture that is to show that I'm open. I don't have anything to hide, and I make myself accessible to them, and work with them. And I found that it's been reciprocated when I do that. So I do think it's a positive. It can be a positive thing if you know how to. Um, if you just, you work with them and they work with you and try to foster a good relationship with media. But I've had to do that, whether it be media of TV or written press, or of course nowadays there's so many. Not that you want to get involved in some of the small online things, but there's a lot of other avenues as well. And I kind of view all that every day and try to keep it in mind. As you know, we're a fishbowl, as they say. So you've always got to keep your mind open to that, and just move forward and be straightforward with them. Hope that helps.
I'm going to ask you to talk about the most controversial issue that you encountered as a manager or administrator, and it's a multi-part question. How was it resolved, and what would you have done differently?
What was the most what type-
Controversial issue that you've encountered.
All right, controversial issue. Let's see, the most controversial issue. Oh, the one I can that comes to mind is in one community I was in, we had to rebuild an important infrastructure for the city. It was a pier, and there was kind of like the town was split on that. Some wanted it and some didn't, and so it was controversial in the respect that the town was pretty much split right down the middle on that. And so it was unifying the community around this. I think the council and I and all of us knew it was the best thing for the town economically to have this. So, but we had to, since it was true, try to convince the others and listen to what they had to say as well. Maybe we were wrong. I think the key in that, as in any controversial issue you have, is to listen to all sides. Don't come in with prejudgments, and just focus right in on that. The way you approach that again is to be impartial and move forward. And I'm trying to think of a better example, but that's probably the best one that comes to my mind. That was a controversial issue.
Thank you. Commissioner McCaskill?
Thank you. How do you assess the impact of new technologies on the operations of a city like Palatka?
Oh, new technology is definitely making it has been and it continues to, and I see it in the last few, well, even a year, accelerating incredibly with AI and that sort of thing. I think it has made our jobs, I won't say more difficult, but definitely you have to be on your game. I just mentioned we're a fishbowl anyway, and people we're in the public eye. It's even more so now with technology. Everyone's got a phone, everyone's taking pictures and those sort of things. And I think that, and reporting everything right off. So I think it just makes us as city leaders, we have to be more aware of things and know that we're always in the spotlight. I think there's also another thing is how it's going to, I think we need to focus on how it's going to improve our jobs, especially it keeps coming to mind, generative AI right now and how we use that. And I think that will transform a lot of things. But social media, of course, with that, but um, I think it's already changed it in a lot of respects. As I say, making us more open and accessible, and having to deal with that.
And you mentioned AI
Mm-hmm.
for those.
Oh, artificial intelligence, generative AI, artificial intelligence. If you haven't been watching the news, it's the things it'll do a lot of things for you right now. It'll write job descriptions for you. It'll write your plans for you. It's not that great, really. I find errors in it, but and I don't personally use it. I've tried, and I wound up scrapping it and just starting from scratch because it just sounds so artificial at this point. But that's going to change. I think it is going to get better, and it's going to be a bit more precise and mimic us, meaning us humans, a lot more going down the road. And that can have a lot of implications right now. Whether specifically for us, of course, we're in the spotlight, and we're also officials that need to make important decisions, so we have to watch on that as well. But generative AI is what I'm talking about. But I think it started too before that. That's in my mind now. I can remember when I first started in this profession about 20 years ago, the internet was kind of just getting going. I mean, it was there, but you had dial-up. It's nothing like today. Not everyone has phones that can communicate instantly. And I think that changed a lot, simply because now, it used to be back then, everyone would walk into City Hall and if they needed something, or they phone call you, or maybe send you an email, which you check every week. Now it's instant, and people want to reply instantly, and they want to know you're on your toes instantly as well, and you know about it. So getting back and trying to think on my feet a little bit, I think the big thing here is it requires of us to be the best we can be in our jobs, and to be able to act as quickly as they shoot the questions and the things to us.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barham.
All right. How do you build commission consensus on a split commission?
Consensus. My approach to that is always to, the number one, kind of like the other question, is to, number one, I want everyone to know that, I'm there to treat you all equally and fairly. And as my position, I'm not to, even though I make strong recommendations for you, it's not to do your jobs for you. It's to inform you with all the research I can and prepare you to make your important decisions. So I think that's a key right there, is if I establish that trust amongst all you, that, I am talking to all of you equally. I am, because let's face it, I mean, I know all of you have certain focuses of different projects and things you want and different views, and you should. That's the whole idea of an assembly, to get together and to make the decisions that are best for the community. And I want to make sure that all of you can rely on me to give you the unbiased and factual details to help you make your decisions, and then go from there, and you make the important decisions of that. Now, I always like to give everyone as many options as possible, so I'll do my best research. You can be assured of that. And but not to belabor the question, but that's the way I would kind of establish that.
Okay. So just a spin-off on that, I think one. So in disseminating the information to the commission, would you generally do that from a standpoint, for example, if we were getting ready for agenda items for commission meetings? An example, how would you disseminate that information in terms of, so all the commissioners will have the information?
Commissioner? Well, as, of course, you get your agendas and packets and things like that, of course, I presume. And so those are distributed equally. And I hope I'm getting your question. If not, please put me on track. Now, during the month, there may be a lot of questions individually from any of you. When that happens and I give information to one, I make sure it goes out to all. if we're talking that way, so that everyone's on the same page. But I-
Let me interject.
Mhm.
When you're developing the agenda,
Oh, okay,
the agenda is being developed.
okay.
So, you know,
What
so
goes on the agenda?
firsthand information, that's what I'm asking for. Kind of firsthand information, how would you approach that?
And let me just make clear, is it what goes on the agenda?
Yeah, yep. How would you make sure that the commission have information across the board in terms of one would not get the information before the
Oh.
rest of the commissions.
Oh, okay, I
Right.
see what you're saying, okay. Well, the way my practice has been in the past is we send out the information packet and things all at the same time. So it's not like one of you gets it before the other. So when I'm developing the agenda, and I'm not sure exactly how you do it here, whether it's with the mayor or I just totally take care of it, but working with the clerk who puts together the agenda, and the department heads who have things, I collect everything that, working with the department heads, they bring it to me and the clerk, and we put the agenda together, and then all the supporting material you need to make your decision. I mean, that's gonna go out to all of you at the same time. I hope I'm getting at, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, give one of you, hey, this is coming up, watch out, and that sort of thing. If that's,
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Jones.
We are going to only ask two questions apiece, right? That's the format.
We're going off of these, we're going around and we're going in order off of kind of the list of questions we have. So we're on number 7 technically.
All right, Ms. Jones? I was under the understanding we were going to ask two questions apiece for clarity.
Yeah, that was if the commission decided to create two questions of their own, but off of this, I would utilize all of this, and you still have space for additional questions if you so desire.
Well, this is the second of my two questions. Mr. Mantresco, please describe your experience within the following areas. Number one, budgeting and finance management, and I'll give them to you one at a time.
All right,
You
go
want-
for one at a time. Oh, that's good, that's better with me, thank
I'll
you.
give it to you, but I'll give you all three.
Oh, okay.
Budgeting and finance management, strategic planning and visioning, capital improvements.
Capital improvement. Okay. Budgeting, finance, strategic planning, visioning, and capital improvements.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, finance and budgeting, basically that's been my major, not my major, but my responsibility in every community I've been in managing local government, either on my own in the smallest communities or working with a finance person to make sure those are carried out for the city. So from soup to nuts, whatever you want to talk about, whether it's building the budget up from scratch with the department heads and staff and going with whatever council direction the council might have, all the way to the end of making sure the audits have been performed and the city's in good standing. But I usually follow the fairly standard procedure of creating the budgets with the department heads, again, with any guidance that the council might have. And we work together in iterations, a few times bringing it back and forth and making sure we have all of our plan together, and I'm the one that in the end brings it to the council and defends it. And that's after getting all the buy-in and everything from there. In some communities I've been in, we've also had a finance committee, so I've had an extra layer to go through. Doesn't look like you have one here, but so budgeting and executing the budget, of course, is just as important once the budget's in place to make sure it holds to what was budgeted. always try to look for some efficiencies if I can going forward, but making sure it stays within spending limits and, whatever issues that may change or go forward, that the council's informed of it. And then, as I say, making sure the audits are performed and again, this is working in conjunction with a finance person as well. Most of my positions, I've had that. It's just one where I did every single thing in my first job. So I have done everything that you can think of in finance and budgeting, all the way up to assessing as well. Because in one state, we did that as well. As for strategic planning and visioning, that's also been my main focus there. In this case, working with either a planning department or a planner we've had on board, or as my smaller communities, I've done everything on that. I've done many comprehensive or master plans, also more focused, specific strategic type plans or plans like your economic development study, which I've been looking over here. So planning, visioning, that also involves zoning and, I've done a number, and we're just kind of redoing it and position I'm in now as well. Zoning, making sure the communities, is sort of reflecting the way the community's changed. And I find that happens a lot where your zoning ordinance gets left behind and you have to renew it. But for planning and visioning, definitely worked in that and on my own and working in a team as a group. So in any fashion there. Same thing kind of goes with capital improvements. Of course, capital improvements involves finances closely as well. And that's always been part of my budgeting as well, because obviously if you've got a capital plan, it usually focuses on your capital budget, whether it be infrastructure or machinery or whatever you might have. And so I've always, whether it be budgeting for it, which I would be doing in the budget, or whether it be, it takes in other things as well, of course. Capital planning, you got to take in the plans you have in place as well, too, the strategic plans or whatever, and make sure that everything flows right and you're following, that you are following the plan as well and funding what you should be funding at the right time.
To get off, I want a little more detail in the strategic planning.
Mm-hmm.
When I said your experience, so while doing that, and you pretty much headed the strategic planning, can you tell me some components of it, or almost like describe it
Strategic planning, how I'd go about it.
briefly?
Brief. Well, strategic planning, I think, begins with, there's a lot of components. First of all, you've got to know or feel the vision out for yourselves, the council, what your vision is for the community. It takes in also me as administrator or manager, knowing what's going on in the community, and that's working closely with my department heads or experts in the areas to try and understand what all the needs are. Because one thing I found about strategic planning is everyone's, the people, our department heads or what have you, they're focused in and they really know what they think is needed for that particular, whatever focus it might be. So I want to make sure that I am in tune again with what is needed for the community. So I guess to break it down, informing myself as best as possible. And that means being as intimately knowledgeable about the community and all of its needs as possible. And by getting that, I get it through interacting with you, the citizens, department heads, and everyone. And yeah, that's right. So definitely, and a lot of times with these things, as I think you did here, you're going to form actually even possibly a separate committee or something, or a focus group. And you're also going to put out informationals, and that's something you really don't rush. You kind of start it ahead, let the public know you're working on this, and invite, give as much reasonable time as you can to really make sure you hear all the sectors of the community. The thing I found that hasn't been done in a lot of cases is make sure you're hearing from you're not wards here, I don't think, but some places have wards. and you miss places.
Mhm.
And you got to make sure, it kind of goes to inclusivity, which we're focusing on, diversity and inclusion as well, which I find gets left behind in that. So, so very important, even more so nowadays, to make sure, especially with looking at Palatka, you do have a lot of sections, and I think it'd be very important in this community to make sure we're in a smaller community where it may not be as much. It's very important here.
Thank you, sir.
Hope I answered you.
Commissioner Campbell?
What is your experience with revitalization, specifically historic preservation, CRAs, CLGs, tax abatement, and federal historic tax credits for eligible properties?
Well, I've been in a couple of communities that had a lot of things on the historic register and that, so we had to know the laws and rules, which do vary from, well, there's a standard national, and then the state to state has some more stricter laws than others. So I have, and don't want to go off the base here, but just for example, if you're going to rehab a building or something, you have to make sure that it follows. If it's on the historic register, you got a whole different animal. I've also done a lot of Main Street community programs, set them up. I understand you're also on Main Street here. You're kind of trying to revive it at this time. And as you know, the reason I bring that up, a big important part of the Main Street program is historically based as well. They focus, one of their major things is focusing on the historic structures and things you might have in town. So I've done that. I've also, the different programs you mentioned, I've done some of those to, we've gotten grants in places I've been to revamp the, whatever historic sections we've had in town. So, done a good amount with historic preservation. With any specific spot beside those, I could maybe fill in for you on that one there.
Thank you. What is your approach to addressing code enforcement issues?
Code enforcement issues. I smile a little because in some places I've had to be very directly in. I've been in some places where we hadn't had a code officer, and I've had to do some directly on my own. So I've done it from the ground up. And of course, in every place I've been, it's been my responsibility as well to make sure the code department's working. And what I've found out is that if it's not, I'll be the first one that will get a call, and that's fine. That's what I'm there for. But code issues, absolutely, whether it be in the last two communities I've been in, and I know you've mentioned it here, but it's been very true in the last two I've been. For example, dilapidated structures and buildings and those sort of things has been a major thing on my front desk probably for the last 4 or 5 years in different communities. And whatever the violations and things might be, I've definitely done a lot in code enforcement.
Thank you. Commissioner McCaskill?
Thank you. What is your economic development experience, particularly related to small businesses and entrepreneurship and various business incubator models?
Well, I actually kind of began my profession in local government as economic development director for a small city. And that was my focus. So right from the get-go, I've learned a lot about it. And first place we had to set up a Main Street program. In 2 other communities, we've had actual pots of money that we managed and lent out to small businesses that possibly couldn't get the funding on their own or just had an idea, and we had to vet them and choose who got the funds and whatever. So done directly that sort of thing. As for business incubators, we didn't actually have an actual incubator. We had one that was run by the county in one place that we had to contribute to. And, but so I'm familiar with how they work and that. But yes, for economic development and the general things you do to bring in businesses or to set up business parks or TIFs or anything like that, I've done quite a bit in those.
Commissioner Borum?
Okay. Please provide examples of how you have handled challenging individuals in the workplace.
Challenging individuals, had a number. Um, had a number of those too. Excuse me. Well, I approached that in, number one, most important thing I found uh, uh, is to tackle the issue right up front. Don't let it linger. Learn my lessons maybe in the past, way back. You let it linger, say, oh, we'll get someone at the review time. It may be too late by then. So if you see an issue, and it's better for you, if I want to focus on one thing too, most of my cases, the employee has probably been okay. They just need a little guidance. So if I think by doing that, I also help the person who really just may be a little misguided right now or needs some mentoring or tutoring. So I work with them. But then again, you know, you get your standard, I follow a standard procedure of giving them, if they're difficult, you know, giving them warnings or what have you. But we discuss things and progressively move forward, and then you have to monitor it, of course, to see if you're making any progress on that. And this is a broad question, so I'm fumbling around. It depends too whether this troubled employee is causing trouble amongst other employees or amongst each other. So either way you handle this is going to be a little different. You know, obeying a lot of things, your personnel rules, as well as being fair to the employee, as well as, you know, doing the right thing for the city and making sure you have the people that are, you know, we're all pulling our weight in the appropriate places. But I think the key to handling it is to face it straightforward, offer a helping hand first. It'll depend if it's an egregious situation versus one that you think salvageable. But you know, talk with the employee. Always, I approach it through my department heads at first. I follow a chain of command. So if there's an issue, unless there, of course, is an issue where there's a conflict, I always work closely with my department heads to make sure that, you know, we're coordinated. And if he or she can't handle it, then, you know, then we have to get involved with a bigger process. But
So I want to piggyback off of that a little,
Mhm.
just a little quick pivot. Have you ever had to displace an employee before?
I mean, fire them or whatever, or display, yes.
Displace.
Yeah, displace them. I like that better. It's better. Yes, I have had to, and some quite difficult ones too. I'll just mention it briefly. I had one where it was a very difficult thing politically in a smart town because the person happened to be the mayor's son, as well as one of the most biggest business owner in town. So luckily, though, the council was very big and they did stand behind me, which helped, I have to admit. And it was an issue that a little easier than others because he was doing some things that even not many could deny. But as with anyone, if you're related, sometimes you will deny it. So it was a tough decision and just one encounter just that came to my mind.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you. That's kind of all the listed questions. Commissioner McCask, I'm sorry. Did I miss one? That's,
I don't think that's appropriate.
I was gonna ask
You already have
no. I was gonna,
background stuff, huh?
I was gonna ask everybody if they had additional questions. If you gave me a
Yeah.
chance.
But 11, I don't think we should ask that.
It was only, I mean, we were answering all the questions, weren't we? It was the whole page, and if you had additional.
Go ahead, Brother Brown.
Go ahead.
I just answered my,
Well, I was gonna ask if anybody had additional questions. I was gonna go around. you know.
Right, okay, we were just gonna.
Yeah. Commissioner McCaskill,
None at this time, thank you.
okay, Commissioner Borum, additional questions?
No, I don't have any, but we didn't do everything that was on the list, so just a question.
Okay, what question would you like to go back to that we missed?
No, Madam
I
Mayor.
don't want to miss any of them, really, because we want to.
But what I'm saying, we had the whole slate, and we're not following what we put forth. And if there were additional questions, they were asked. So this was the slate. This is
Okay.
what we're going by.
I'm not aware of the one I missed. That's why I'm asking you. Tell me which one I missed. I'm sorry. Or which one we missed, I should say. consistently.
Madam Mayor, he's referring to question number 11.
11. I mean,
Okay,
we're going through the whole
okay,
process.
I have an older form. That's my fault. I have an older form. Okay, so could you please, Commissioner Borum, question 11, please?
I already did question 10, Mayor. If you don't want to ask it,
Okay.
that's fine, but we're just
Commissioner
gonna follow.
Jones, question 11, please. My oversight, thank you.
That question been answered, and so I don't want to answer it. I don't want to ask it.
Anybody else have any additional questions?
I have a question with regards to, do you have any experience with regards to golf course or airport management?
Golf course, I have had a golf course in one of my communities, and I've had an airport as well. So yes, I have had experience with it,
Could
yes.
you elaborate?
Yeah, it was well, golf course was a pretty small golf course. And the airport was not as big as yours here, but it was, one of your standard municipal type airports. It had private planes that would mostly, that's really all it did was private planes for executives in the town and that sort of thing. The golf course was really, it wasn't, we didn't really even charge that much for it, but we had to keep it up and maintain it, which is a big deal. And the city just kind of funded it on its own. But I'm kind of, well, not good at it, but I'm a golfer myself, so I help at it. But yes, I have had that to some extent, yes, sir.
Anybody else have any additional questions?
I don't have an additional question. These are all the questions here, so I'm just gonna ask the last question, 11, if it's on the thing. If a public records online search is conducted of you, would you be there? Well, it's not right here. Would you be there? No. Would there be any information revealed that would be of any concern to the city of Palatka and your possible selection as a city manager?
I can't think of any at all. You're certainly not going to find anything I did improper. Definitely no ethical, criminal, or anything like that for certain. You may find a counselor or two who maybe didn't like me on there, but I think it comes with the territory. But you're definitely not going to find, whether you do whatever type of background or social media, you're not going to find anything. And don't like to talk too hard and it happens, but knock on wood, I've not had any, legal, ethical, or anything like that, absolutely at all.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
All right, so let's just clean this slate up.
thank you. Do you have any questions of us, Mr. Van Tresco?
Yeah, I'll just ask a question. Is there, and this is a dumb question, but maybe it is, because we do everything, but is there any particular strength you're looking for in your manager that you really are? I mean, I know, again, we have to do everything, but is there any special thing that maybe, I don't want to say lacked in the past, because then that may put people on spot here, but things that you wish, well, this person, we really need the strength in this area. Or maybe I should say, make sure that he or she has strength in this area that you really need.
Does anybody want to speak to that?
I defer that to the mayor.
Well, I think we asked a lot of questions already of you. I think we're looking for somebody who's able to work with the commission, gain our trust, be able to lead us forward along with employees and the community. We really have to get the community involved, move this community forward. As you said, there's a lot of things that are happening here and there. Sometimes the pride in the community, pride in place doesn't exist. So I think all of those things, so we need somebody who can be multifaceted, but particularly gain trust and be strong in communication and transparency. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I think you wrapped it up nicely.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. We're going to take a break until the next interview. So the meeting is adjourned for the moment. We're going to take a recess.
It's in recess until 2:30, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please. Return.
Can we bring some clarity to how we are going to proceed to ensure that we are on the same page?
we'll have him come in and introduce himself. You do have to hit the dot in the button and turn the mic on. Welcome, Mr. Bell. Thank you for being interested in being the city manager of Palatka. We're going to ask you a series of questions, but first we'll start with you providing a little information about yourself and giving an introduction.
Sure. So, and I apologize for any of this that might be repetitive, but just to give you a brief introduction of myself, I have two boys, 9 and 11, and a daughter that is 16 years old. And I mention that because family is very important to me. That's the core of my foundation, and it is a part of all the decisions that I make. I come from a community service background. I have two older sisters and an older brother, and all of us are in public service. My father is 30 plus years, retired military, Army general officer. My mom is 30 plus years, although she's passed in special education, did her master's in special ed and business, and also a PhD in special ed. Worked in all of the most difficult cities across the country. I mentioned that because, like I said, the public service is the foundation of who I am. It is what I enjoy. It is not a job for me. It is a way of life. And that's the way I was raised. I have experience coming out of University of Miami. And my undergraduate, I began working at Miami-Dade Water and Sewer. Although I worked my way through college a brief period of time as a police officer. Miami-Dade Water and Sewer is where I started as an engineer. I worked from the bottom, started digging ditches, and worked my way all the way up to managing $880 million worth of work for the Water Management District. Followed my boss onto the South Florida Water Management District, and there I worked my way up from the bottom again to becoming the Deputy Chief of Staff. And so that's where my love for municipal management came from. I really didn't know a lot about municipal city managers until that point in time. Had an opportunity to work a brief time for IBM for approximately 6 years in their state and local government sector. So I was still working in public sector. I was responsible as the business manager for complex solutions, anything hardware, software, and services combined. I have a background in education leadership. I also have a background in technology, background in public works. So a myriad of different areas, disciplines, but also from the East Coast to the West Coast in different cities, different environments. So that's a little bit of the introduction about myself and my background.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner McCaskill?
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good
Morning.
afternoon, I'm sorry.
Good
Still in the
afternoon.
morning.
Right.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
So hopefully, if I'm selected as the city manager here, I will be here in the next 5 years. One of the things that attracted me to Palatka is the opportunity to serve for a long period of time. I want to have a community where I can raise my kids all the way up until they graduate. And like I said, I have a 9-year-old, so I've got at least 8 years. But I also want to be in a community where I can make a difference, where I can use my skill sets, talents and abilities to be able to have a positive impact. And so in 5 years, I want to be part of the city of Palatka and a thriving community that is reaching the potential that I know exists here.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Commissioner Warren.
All right. Once again, thank you for your interest in the city manager role here in the city of Palatka.
Sure.
And where do you see yourself in that was, you asked that question, didn't you? Number 2. Okay. Let me
I can
flip
answer it again if
No,
you
no,
want.
no, no. I had,
That's
no,
number one.
I had mine, that was supposed to be mine because I asked that of the other candidate. No.
Number one, you asked number two, kind of segue.
My number two, okay, where do you see Palatka in 5 years? I'm sorry,
That's quite all right.
apologize for that.
So, again, something that attracted me to this opportunity and to this community is because I see the tremendous potential that this community has. It has the bones to be a even greater city than it is. I see the downtown as a thriving area, and as you know, I went back to school for my resume to study the PhD, and the focus of my research is looking at how you can bridge the gap between education systems and local government systems, how you can break down those silos for emerging communities in such a way that you can take those communities, and I use this in my writing, from surviving to thriving. And so I see Palatka as a city that should be thriving, can be thriving, is thriving, and can be thriving even better. And so in 5 years, your downtown area, your ability, we should be able to engage or access the ability to develop housing, affordable housing. I don't like to use the word affordable. I like to use the term attainable or workforce housing, because affordable has that moniker of the word cheap or lower quality, and that's not what I'm talking about. High quality, attainable housing, as well as developing your housing area with greater density in some areas that are appropriate and other areas that aren't. Smart development so that you can support the services that the city offers.
Okay, I want to spin off like I did on the last particular one, and basically, well, what specifically do you know about Palatka?
So I've done a lot of research over the last year, from when I was an initial candidate to now. I've had the opportunity to watch several of the Zoom meetings. I was able to tour the area, bumped into Miss Brown. Miss Brown was nice enough to give me a tour of the entire community. So she got in her car and I drove around the whole community. So she pointed out a lot of the areas that I was unaware of. So that was one of the aspects. I reviewed the budget, reviewed the economic development plan, looked at the statistics around it, the demographics of the community, the poverty level, the cost of living, the median home value. All of those aspects I investigated, looked through it. And then on top of that, I walked St. John's Avenue. I walked all the way from the south end of the city to the north end of the city in segments, but I walked it. So I wanted to get familiar with the community. But as I said in some of the documents that I provided you, if I am selected as the city manager, it is my objective to go through a listening tour where I get an opportunity to meet with and greet the community. I did that in my previous locations, and even most recently, the police department came out and said, hey, we've talked to you more than we've talked to the last 10 city managers in just this meet and greet period. The fire department said the same thing. The community, all of the folks in the downtown area, the businesses said the same thing. To me, in order to be a good manager, you have to hear what the community has to say, and that's one of the objectives that I have, and if I'm selected for the position.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jones?
Mr. Bill, how would you establish credibility and build trust with the elected officials, department heads, directors, residents, and staff upon arriving as a new city manager?
So I think I touched a little bit on that in the answer to the last question, but I think one of the aspects of my credibility is the fact that I have experience, hands-on experience, working in multiple divisions of municipal management. Like I mentioned, law enforcement, and no disrespect to the fire department, but we run the buildings when people are shooting at you, and that's part of the experience that I bring to the table. Public works, water and sewer utility work, IT, HR management, succession planning. All of those are aspects of the experience that I bring to the table. And I think that gives me a certain level of credibility when engaging with staff, because they know that I have some experience with the types of challenges that they face in their jobs on a regular basis. Um, Ultimately, though, the success of a manager is dependent on the ability to build trust. And I think that I have been successful throughout my career in building trust with my staff, investing in staff, making sure that we pursue training, making sure that we support their careers. And I think that history and that perspective helps to create credibility with staff. And with council, I believe that, you know, a same or similar approach, making sure that you get the information that you need on an equitable basis, that the same thing that I share with one council person, I share with all council persons, but also realizing that every council person has a different way of thinking and learning. One of the things I learned from my experience in education leadership is not everybody learns the same. Not everybody thinks the same. You can have people that are audible learners, and you can have people that are visual learners and kinesthetic learners. And so being able to understand where a council person is and that the way that they like to see communication is important, meeting them where they're at is important. I think that helps to develop credibility and making sure that you share that across the board with all council persons. But again, coming back to trust, you have to build non-transactional relationships that aren't about what I can do for you or what you can do for me, but what we all have to learn from each other, what we all have to share with each other. I think that helps to build trust and credibility moving forward.
Thank you.
Commissioner Campbell.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
What are your experiences in dealing with the media, newspaper, television, radio? Do you use the media as a positive force? If so, how?
So I have an extensive background in dealing with the media and various positions that I've had. It's important to me because in the work that you do in municipal management as well as education leadership, you need to get the word out. You need to make sure that people have access to information, and the media is a tool in order to accomplish that. I think that you have to approach both earned and unearned media coverage so that you don't have to pay for everything that you put out in the media. And so the media is a great, can be a great ally when you're trying to get advertisement out to various aspects of the community that are unaware of it. As you probably saw when I was manager in Muskegon Heights, I instituted a new program, which was a radio program. And so we use radio as a media, working with the media to be able to get the word out of what we were doing in Muskegon Heights. It was called Reaching New Heights. And so that program was a call-in program. People could call in and ask questions, and I was, as the manager, in a position to respond to that. So that was another aspect of engaging with the media that I think is important. You had asked whether I see them as positive or negative. Now, with everything, it could be a double-edged sword. The media can help you or hurt you based on what they decide to report. And I think that the art of being a manager in terms of public relations for municipal management is making sure that you show as often as possible the positive things that are going. Now, face it, the media likes likes to follow what bleeds leads. And so it's difficult sometimes when you're doing good works in order for the media to pick that up because that's not bleeding. And so it doesn't make the front page. It doesn't necessarily make the news. So the work that we do as management is to find those people in the media who are interested in those types of stories that are positive about the community, that show the best side of the community, that access aspects of the community that otherwise you would not be able to touch.
Thank you.
Sure.
Talk about the most controversial issue that you encountered as a manager administrator and how it was resolved.
So I think I shared with council the last time that I had an opportunity when I was Deputy Chief of Staff and responsible for taking over, at the South Florida Water Management District and taking over the Public Works Electronic Data Support team. And when I arrived at that location, I was greeted with pickup trucks, shotgun racks, and rebel flags. And so I knew it was going to be a challenging environment for me. I had two supervisors that reported to me. One was the technicians, and one was the not technicians, but electricians. And so it wasn't 2 weeks that I was there that the supervisor of the technicians, I was told, referred to me using a racial slur. And so I had to bring that individual into my office, suspend him for 2 weeks as our policy required. And during that process, after a week of suspension, he's supposed to come in for counseling. He came in, and at that point, he said, "I've been here 27 years, and I'm just going to retire. I'm done." And I told him at that point that if that's what you choose to do, then that's up to you. But here's what I will tell you. I said, "You have institutional knowledge for this organization that is valuable to this organization." I said, "Your responsibility, because we are a command and control organization, is to make sure that when you step on this property, you endear in your staff a respect for the chain of command." I said, "The terminology that you used previously does not endear respect for the chain of command. It diminishes it." I said, "But if you can do your job when you step on this property, before you step on this property, I don't care what you have to say." And it was difficult for me to have to say that because I did not appreciate the slurs that he used. But I told him, "You can say whatever you want to say before. You can say whatever you want to say when you step off the property. But while you're here and dealing with and interacting with your staff, you have a responsibility as a leader to lead appropriately." And so he went home, thought about it for a week, came back a week later, and he became my model employee. And instead of having to terminate him, I actually recommended him for a merit increase. And HR said to me, "You can't give somebody a merit increase in the same year that you suspended them." And I said, "Well, I understand that, but I suspended him. He paid his dues. It was without pay. That's done. And then moving forward, I'm looking at his performance, and his performance is worthy of a merit increase." And his explanation to me, we ultimately got that worked out. His explanation to me was, "I didn't think you were going to give me a fair chance." And I said, "How I feel about you personally is not important as your job and your function here in this organization and the value that you bring to the organization." So I would say that that's probably one of the most difficult situations I had to navigate and deal with, because I had to set my personal feelings to the side and think about the value of the organization moving forward. Oh, and I should say, this guy is one of the people that sends me a birthday card every year.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner McCaskill?
Thank you. How do you assess the impact of new technologies on the operations of the city of Palatka?
So thank you for that question. During the time period that I worked at IBM, I gained a special appreciation for the adaptation and adoption of technology in municipal management. The reason why I was offered a role at IBM is because we did an implementation at the Water Management District for asset management. It was Maxima, which was an IBM product. We were the first in the country to do asset management using RFID technology. Prior to that, we had 800 sites, 3,000 devices in the field, and there was no documentation whatsoever of where those sites were or what devices were at that site. The implementation of that asset management system documented all of that, and it allowed us to be much more effective and efficient in doing our jobs. Yes, there was an expense, but the amount of money that we saved as a result of that, it was tremendous. In addition to the actual operational efficiency that we gained, we also gained a reduction in the training cycle. But prior to that, it would take 4 years to hire a technician and train them before they could work on their own. 4 years. That was ridiculous to me. After we implemented this system, we reduced that from 4 years down to 9 months. It's a tremendous savings to the organization. And so I carried that with me into IBM and working with the cities and the communities and the counties, as well as in education systems and healthcare. Um, I was able to show them, help them understand the ROI of leveraging technology to be more efficient and effective in the work that they did. So I think it's a valuable asset. There is an expense, but I think in the long run, there is a savings as a result of that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Borman?
How, do you build commission consensus on a split commission?
So ultimately, pardon me for taking a drink there. I think the responsibility of a city manager is to provide all of council with accurate information, the best available information at the time. Um, in the world that we currently live in with the Open Meetings Act, it's difficult for council members to, commission members to be able to communicate with each other because of the requirements of sunshine. I think it's part of the responsibility of a manager to interact with each of the commission members to understand where they are on issues, to provide them with the information so that they can make educated decisions based on the information. When unfortunately there's a situation where there may be a split, if the knowledge and information doesn't bring the council together around what would be the most or the most efficient or effective solution, then I believe it's the manager's responsibility in communicating with each of the commission members to share that information so that you're aware as much as possible of what the positions are and the reasons why behind those positions. And then at the end of the day, the work of the manager is at the pleasure of the commission. And the commission, by the democratic processes, comes to a conclusion. Hopefully, the information that I can provide as a manager would help to move commissioners to a more, a greater consensus around a solution.
And I have asked the same question because it's a spinoff of
Okay.
what? So developing the agenda, how do you approach that in terms of commission as a whole having the same information, even like you got the pre-agenda? How do you approach that?
Okay, so I served for a period of time as the clerk of the Water Management District. I had 13 members of the board at that time. So as the clerk, I was responsible for putting together the agenda. And that, I always exercise the philosophy of putting together the agenda is taking input from each of the commission members. And based on that input, putting together a pre-agenda. And unless an issue was objectionable to other members of the commission, then that agenda moved forward to a final agenda. If there were issues that members of the commission had about items that were on the pre-agenda that I shared with everybody, then there was a discussion about that. Well, does this require additional information? Does it require additional background based on the conflicts that may be presented at that time? And ultimately, you through that iterative process, you come up with a final agenda that is representative of being able to get the work of the city accomplished.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones.
Bill,
Sir.
please provide your experience within the following areas. You might want to take note.
Okay.
Budgeting and financial management, strategic planning and visioning.
Mhm.
The third one's capital improvements.
Okay. So if you don't mind me taking these out of order.
Yeah.
That's right. So as a manager, I live and die with strategic planning. I was a member of the team that supported FPNL in their effort to get the first ever Deming recognition of a U.S. company in the history of the United States. That was TQM, Total Quality Management. And so as a college student that was a member of that team, I learned the value of strategic planning. As an engineer, you know, point A is where you start from. Your strategic plan defines that, your baseline, and then you determine or decide where you want to go, and you identify the ways and mechanisms that you use, the tactics in order to accomplish that, to get from A to Z. And so in every leadership role that I've been in, I've approached the organization with a strategic plan. That strategic plan is on the foundation of the mission, the vision, and the values of the organization that really define the direction of the organization. And so the strategic plan should support that, should be in alignment with that. So it should be going in the direction that your mission, your vision, and your values take you. I've used what is called process mapping in order to make sure that I can get the whole organization on the same page. We map out all the processes, all the services that we provide as part of that strategic plan. And then we step back and look at it and find the points of intersection. Where do we have conflicts? How can we tweak those issues, those points of conflict or intersection in order to provide a better product for the community? When a resident comes to City Hall, they have an issue that they don't care whether that issue falls in this department or that department, or if it means that in order to resolve that issue that multiple departments get together, they want it resolved. And I find that process mapping is a mechanism by which we can break down the silos and provide better services to the community. As I mentioned or referenced before, the research that I'm doing for my PhD, although I have not finished it yet, or the writing yet, is about breaking down silos between organizations so that you can provide better, more efficient, more effective service to the community. So I have used strategic planning in almost every single job that I've had as a leader. And now the budget. The largest budget that I have put together, zero-based budget, was a $1.07 billion budget with the water management district. And the smallest one that I put together is a $5 million budget. I've been responsible for budgets throughout my career on a department level and also on an organizational level. I'm familiar with, like I said, zero-based budgets, participatory budgets, and priority-based budgets. The way that you put the budget together, define the budget, and share the budget going forward, as well as use it as a guide to your spending throughout the organization. And the last thing is CIP. A number of organizations do not have capital improvement planning. And so I have brought that to the table in every organization because it's important to be able to project over a 5, 10, or 15-year horizon what your capital expenditures are going to be, and then determine how much money you're going to put towards meeting those needs, whether that money is going to be part of your budget, coming from your budget, or whether it's going to come out of reserves. You need to be able to plan, and that needs to be an intentional process of both the council and staff in putting that together. But it is also part of that strategic plan. All of those documents should come together to give you a cohesive package.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What is your experience with revitalization, specifically historic preservation, CRAs, CLGs, tax abatements, and federal historic tax credits for eligible properties?
Okay, can you go over that list again real quick? So I want to make sure that I cover them all.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Historic preservation,
Mm-hmm,
CRAs,
mm-hmm,
CLGs,
mm-hmm.
tax abatements, and federal historic tax credits for eligible properties.
Okay, so most recently in my role as a manager in Muskegon Heights, I was responsible for the revitalization, and I think in my resume I included a link to a site called Reaching New Heights. That was the result of a charrette process that defined how we were going to redevelop our downtown area. When you have an opportunity to take a look at that, you'll see that we utilize all of the tax credit options that are available as a mechanism for redeveloping our downtown area. Historic preservation is a key aspect of it, and I believe in Florida you have House Bill 1138, if I'm not mistaken. I can't cite the exact name of that, but that provides for a 20% tax credit for certified structures, the rehab of certified structures, as well as 30% tax credit if those certified structures are within the Main Street area. I mean, those are opportunities to leverage to be able to reduce the barriers to entry for people to make improvements to the community and specifically in the downtown area. And those are things that I used with under different names, of course, not Florida, but in Michigan. I've also used TIF funding, tax increment financing, as well as tax abatements for the corporate development to be able to provide incentives to our corporations to either locate within our jurisdiction, or if they are already in our jurisdiction, to be able to expand. Now, obviously, if they are already in our area, the tax credits cannot be assessed against the existing equipment and materials. It's whatever the expansion is that's available. So I have a fairly good experience, not only in Muskegon Heights, but also in the various other jurisdictions that I've worked in developing the downtown area. And I will say that I was also, I had two hats when I was the city manager. I was also the executive director of the Downtown Development Association in Muskegon Heights, dual role. So I managed that effort as well. And finally, when I was with the joint effort in Indianapolis, that was a downtown development initiative that leveraged federal and state tax credits in order to incentivize development in the downtown area.
Thank you.
Mhm.
What is your approach to addressing code enforcement issues?
Okay. So as I mentioned briefly, I served as a police officer. And so I have a mindset that I've taken away from that a community, the way a community looks is a reflection of your code enforcement. And so I am a strong advocate in some cities that I worked in, code enforcement was a subdivision of the police department. In others, it was a subdivision of the building and zoning department. Regardless of where it's located, the key is that their responsibility is to enforce the ordinance. We need to make sure that we have the ordinances that define the way that we want our community to look. And those people that go out and do that work need to have the support of the city manager as well as the council for actually going out and doing that work. The difficulty comes in when we ask them to do the work and then we hedge that because of the fact that it can affect people that we didn't expect it to affect. I say that if that's the case, then we need to change the ordinance. We need to modify it. But the people that are out there doing the work, they need to get our support in order to be able to do the work as long as they are abiding by what the ordinances say. When those ordinances conflict, that's when the manager brings it to members of the council if you hadn't already, commission, if you hadn't already heard about it first, and oftentimes the commission hears about it first. In those situations, we need to consider the interpretation to make sure the interpretation is correct and consider whether or not we need to modify the ordinance in order to address those particular issues.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner McCaskill?
Thank you. What is your economic development experience with, related to small businesses, entrepreneurship, and various business incubator models? I'm sorry.
Sure. So, like I alluded to, Reaching New Heights was started as a charrette process for economic development of our downtown area. The core of our downtown area is small businesses. If you had gone through our main street before, that you had boarded up buildings that were not providing anybody any services. So Our economic development initiative addressed that, was able to bring businesses back to the area with the grant support that I was able to provide. I wrote grants and was successful in getting close to 80 some odd $1 million worth of grant revenue to support the redevelopment of our downtown area. One of the aspects of it was bringing I'm drawing a blank on the term now. Water park. Splash pad, that's it. Sorry. Splash pad to the downtown area. We had a park across the street and we got the funding to put a splash pad there. And also the first piece of public art, which was a donation of a statue. The theme of the statue was Band Together because the objective was to be able to bring the city and the school system together. And so the band was a historical band that was modeled after, had received a number of awards, modeled after Florida A&M's band, Marching 100. And so that statue is actually there, and they're in the process of building the splash pad. But the point was, as part of our downtown development, is that became a destination and people were coming just for that. So now you have the incentive and the motivation for people to put their businesses right across the street because now they had people that they were serving. At the same time, we were developing housing, right? Small businesses like larger populations, and by developing housing, we had 1,000 vacant lots. By putting houses on that, we were bringing residents into the community, which were then in a position to patronize those businesses. And the last thing I'll say, as an incubator, we had a property that was owned by the city, a building that was adjacent to our flea market, and isolated that property as a kitchen incubator. So by day, from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., you had a breakfast restaurant. And from 3 p.m. going on, individual restaurants who at that point were using food trucks could come in, use the facility, try out different menus. And that was a transition from food truck to brick and mortar. And then once they got the following from their brick and mortar at that restaurant, whether it was a Monday night or Tuesday night or Wednesday night, then they could move into one of those spaces on our downtown street. And so we did that in conjunction with a $8 million grant from the state to pave our downtown street. So all those things coming together was part of our economic development plan. Okay, sure.
Commissioner Barham.
All right. All right. Please provide examples of how you have handled challenging individuals in the workplace.
Okay,
You already answered that.
I think so. I
But
think
you
I
wanna-
touched on that.
You want to hit it again? Or you can pivot off and get another one.
I would say one other challenging situation when I was with IBM, and it's actually the last project that I managed, was leading the team to do the technology infrastructure for the Universal Healthcare Initiative in Massachusetts, which was a program that was developed under Mitt Romney as governor, handed off to Patrick Deval, and IBM had the contract to put together the technology infrastructure for single-payer insurance. Challenging in the workplace because it was something that had never been done before. It was fraught with political liabilities because it was changing the nature and the way that insurance functioned in the state of Massachusetts as ultimately became the precursor to the Affordable Care Act. And so we developed my team that I led developed the infrastructure so that you could go online to a website and access it in order to set up your single payer insurance. Difficult again, because there was no handbook or manual. Everybody that we need, in order for it to be successful, we had to have access to different databases of information, and those were strictly guarded by the people who saw their jobs connected to whether or not they could be a gatekeeper for that data. And we had to figure out ways to navigate those situations, to make them feel secure, to give us access to the data in order to build the back end and the front end for that technology infrastructure. Many community meetings, town halls, breakfasts, lunches, and dinners with people in order to make them see that what we were doing was part of a mandate of the project that was given to us. And we went live without failing.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones, you want to take 11? You want to move on?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't do it on the other one.
That's okay.
that
Doesn't matter who
okay?
does it, as long as we ask the question.
Would you just?
If we asked, we were supposed to ask the same questions,
Yeah.
because,
Same question, but
Right.
it wasn't necessarily the same person, but go ahead.
well, I
Commissioner.
mean, I'll
Please go
ask it
ahead.
because it wasn't asked. I said, okay, well, if a public record request, if a public records online search is conducted of you, would there be any information revealed that would be of concern to the city of Palatka and your possible selection as city manager?
Well, I would say that the shelf life of a city manager is very limited, because if you do your job and you do your job well, I mean, the adage is that there's always somebody that's not going to be happy with the work that you do. You can't keep all the people happy all of the time. And so as a result, if you did a internet search on me, you're going to find people out there that will use the media or the internet as a mechanism for saying whatever they want to say. I will say this: everywhere that I worked, the gold star is evaluations. Okay. You have a policy, and most cities have a policy of evaluating city managers on an annual or biannual basis. If you look at every single one of my evaluations, my productivity is either meets or exceeds expectation. I've never had in my municipal career, an ethical concern or issue. Now, you will hear people on the internet, you will see people on the internet that challenge whether or not I had a degree, okay? Which is ridiculous to me. It's funny to hear that, but if you read the corrections will tell you that I provided not only a copy of my degree, but I also provided my transcript. So they have used the media, social media, to smear or try to challenge my background throughout my career. The only thing they haven't challenged is whether or not I was a citizen. I haven't heard that yet. So, but my point is this, that I think for myself and people like me who pursue the position of city manager, particularly people of color, there is a situation where those folks that are out there in social media have keyboard guts, and they feel like they can say whatever they want to say without accountability. I mentioned that the media, when it bleeds, it leads. They're not concerned about the validity of what they say. They're only concerned about getting somebody to clickbait. But if you go back to, and I provided the council with a list of all of my positions and the opportunity for you to reach out to any of the people that are my references, that will provide you a background of exactly the productivity of the work that I've done.
Thank you. Does anybody have any further questions of Mr. Bell?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Keller.
Mr. Bell,
Yes, sir.
could you explain, or if you have any experience with golf courses or airport management?
Yes, in two of my previous positions, I was responsible for general aviation, GA airport, and the economic development of those airports. And so I'm very familiar with what goes into managing airport. And only one of my previous employments was I responsible for a golf course. And at that point, we contracted out contract service for the management of that golf course, but it was city-owned property.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have additional questions? Thank you. Is there any questions you have of us, Mr. Bell?
Of course, I am curious about the timeline and and the process. And I mean, that's what the HR process is in the timeline, if I should be selected.
I think for the group, we didn't set a specific timeline yet. We have now conducted the interviews. I think we all have to read our notes and review them and come back together for a recommendation. But Ms. Jones, do you have anything that you want to say to speak to the HR process itself?
Once the commission comes with your decision as to how you want to move forward, then HR will at that time reach out to any candidates and notify them of any decision that the commission has already made.
Will this question,
For the timeline, I think we're talking time.
right, but timeline for the decision, is that what you're saying?
I think that's what you're asking. Well,
yes.
Mr. Bell is asking if we have a timeline of sorts for a decision, even approximate timeline.
So since we can't talk, can we discuss that? I mean, now, so we'll know versus,
Well,
Sure.
absolutely, sure.
I mean, we should move as fast as the process allow us to. So we probably need to come up with some date. We gotta, I guess, evaluate the information that we have before us and give direction. And I don't want to belabor the point. We just need to move as quickly as the process will allow.
So with that said, do we want to set a date, time certain to come back with our recommendations to move forward? And would that be in a week? What are we looking at? What are we,
No, well,
I'm asking, I'm not offering anything.
well,
Commissioner McCaskill?
Oh, absolutely. Date certain can be as soon as Monday for me. I'm good with moving forward in the process.
Commissioner Borum, what are your thoughts?
moving forward and in terms of selecting a hire,
Selecting a date for us to come back because we are pretty limited because of sunshine.
I won't,
I
I won't
wanted
be
to
here
review
next week on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Monday, the 29th.
I won't be here Monday, Tuesday. I'll be in Tallahassee,
You're gonna be in Tallahassee Monday?
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Okay.
Legislative action days. So I'll be available as soon as Thursday hit. We can do it. I mean, if it requires the commission, I mean, or I could send my, if you want to do it, maybe, because I'm gonna be tied up there the whole time.
Mhm.
If you want to do it after 5 or 6 or something like that, I mean, later, I can have that time available. But I will be out of town Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, legislative action day.
Commissioner Jones.
I'm ready to get it over with.
I am too. My question to HR and legal, so everybody's in here, so that we wouldn't have to come back and reschedule. We have it to 5 o'clock. I mean, is that too soon? Is that with this process, we were instructed to write
Well,
down and score?
Right.
And if we did that, what else is pending? Our discussion, because it's a discussion that has to happen,
Right.
soon. So we had a discussion, and move forward versus another week, because that's gonna put us out another week. That means we're going into February.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that's my timeline. That's what I have. I didn't plan that, but that's the way it is.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm just asking how much more, what else we need to put into this?
The
Is
date-
what you would like to see us put into?
This sole decision now is based on your discussion, how you all come back together, make a decision as to which candidate or how you want to proceed. And yes, that decision can be made today if it's the will of the commission. If you want to push it out, then that also can be accommodated as well, but it's all on how you all want to proceed from here. The only thing you have to do now is get your notes together and amongst yourself decide, your choice of candidates.
Well, we're just gonna score. We're scoring this and then making that submittal to say, hey, this is our candidate that scored the best during the interview process. And then we do whatever else on the back end.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I don't have a problem with that, but Commissioner Campbell, I want everybody's input.
I would like to conclude this interview and allow Mr. Bell to exit
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. We didn't give him a timeline. That's why I didn't do
Yeah, he
that.
did that.
Yeah.
Ms. Jones will get back with you with hopefully in a few minutes.
In the near future, very near.
We know you had to 3:30, Mr. Bell, but
Do we want to take a bit of break to score these and then come back for discussion?
In
or-
regards to the discussion.
Yeah.
I don't mind the discussion. However, I would have to excuse myself for an appointment that cannot be missed.
okay.
So I would just have to join via Zoom. I will be available, but just not in the presence of the chambers. I will be available via Zoom.
And if I have to be present via Zoom, I can do that as well, but again, it'll have to be around my availability, my time that I did not,
I'm referring to
my
today.
conflict, my,
We're
you're talking
talking
about
today.
today.
We're talking about today,
We do it today.
not next week. We're talking about
Mhm.
today.
I had to take a recess to get all, collect all this
That's what I
information
was
that I've written
suggesting, that we
down,
Quickly. look
go
at-
through it, do my rankings and submit. I mean, I can do that, but it's going,
I'm just.
I can do that.
10-minute recess or so, and
I
to
can
do
work
that,
late
and
into
come
the
right
night.
back. Is that acceptable?
Acceptable with me.
Okay,
We want to finish it up. We can finish up today if y'all
Yes.
want.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
fine.
so let's take a 10-minute recess and regroup, after
minutes?
10 minutes. I said, is that too short a
Okay.
time?
Oh, 10 minutes of recess?
How about that? How about
Well,
30
just to
minutes?
tally it up, I want to just, we're out, we have open mics now. I just,
At least 15, at least
okay,
15.
15,
Thank you.
request is for 15, so we'll be back in 15 minutes, folks. Apparently, we're still doing some math here. We'll wait a couple of minutes before we stop. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, and Commissioner Campbell is there in Zoom, so we're going to come back from our recess and start up. I guess we're going to go through each individual and provide scores for each candidate. And we'll start with Mr. Van Tresco. Oh, are you ready? Well, okay, Commissioner. Okay, McCaskill, finish up, and that's fine. Oh, that's okay. Want her to be paying attention to.
Oh, let him go first, let him wait on it, let him wait.
I was just, so she could contribute. I don't want to.
Let him go first.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah.
Commission approved first. We can vote on it. Let him vote on it. We can vote on it. I think Commissioner McCaskill gonna need a CPA. I'm just messing. I'm just messing. Yeah, I'm just joking. But we can't vote. Can we vote on the main?
Well, I was just gonna have everybody provide their scores and then we can make that decision.
Can we vote, can we vote on who go first?
We can, are you ready, Commissioner Casco? If not, we'll start with Commissioner Borum. You go
I don't-
first since you're bringing it up.
I don't feel well.
Oh, my
ready.
Oh, I
goodness.
give you my number. Hold on, I give you my number.
Okay.
I'm ready.
What number?
Okay,
You look,
Commissioner McCaskill is ready.
Seventy-seven
she
for
said.
Ventresco,
What was your score for Ventresco? I'm sorry.
77 overall.
Okay. And and you, Commissioner Boyle?
mine,
Yes.
64.
Okay. Commissioner Jones?
Grand total be 50.
Commissioner Campbell, your total for Mr. Van Tresco?
62.
62. Okay, and I had actually 106, but that's okay. Mr. Bell, Ms. McCaskill?
87.
Commissioner Borum?
91.
Okay, Commissioner Jones?
Bill is 86.
Commissioner Campbell?
90.
90, you said? I'm sorry, okay. And I had 103, so With that said, if somebody wants to do the magic math, it's apparently,
I can.
when you look at it, Mr. Bell's, you can do that by looking at it and see that Mr. Bell's total is greater than Mr. Van Tresco's in terms of, without even totaling it up, I mean, you can see. So with that said, do we want to make a recommendation based on these findings, or is that our recommendation?
Based on the response.
Based on the scores, apparently it's Mr. Bell.
359, 457.
Yeah.
So does that require a motion from the mayor?
Well, not from the mayor, I can't make a motion, but one of you
Or
has. to
from
make a
us,
motion.
from the
Yes,
dais?
one of
Are
you
you gonna
has to make a
entertain
motion.
one?
I
Does that
can't make a
require
motion.
one? An entertainment from the mayor? That she doesn't require a motion or a vote from the commission if this is who we go with. Okay,
Okay.
so based on the, I
Based on
motion,
the scores, you're making a motion? Okay, I'm sorry.
I make a motion based on the scores that we recommend Troy Bell, Mr. Troy Bell as our next city manager.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposition? Okay,
Motion passed unanimously.
okay, there is, thank you. There is one more thing on the agenda.
Yeah, we stuck a grant in there real quick.
A grant?
Adopt a resolution. Can you please read it? Ms. Krantz, read the resolution.
Yes, ma'am. Give me just a moment. I'm so sorry. I was
Okay, that's okay.
helping you with numbers, but I guess I didn't need to, but that's what I was doing. Resolution number 2024-R12, a resolution of the city of Palatka, Florida, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute and attest a Florida Commerce FC Grant Agreement D0254 for the St. Johns Avenue Mosley to the Railroad Project in amount of $555,518, with the city match in the amount of $500,555,518 for a total funding requirement of $1,111,036 and providing for scrivener's errors.
You want to provide us a bit more information?
I believe that, this project has been talked about at the last commission meeting. This is, the one that we're working on from Mosley to the railroad tracks, in conjunction, with the county. We're going to install some new water mains in that area, and then we're complete with that. The county's coming in to resurface, the street. We're ready to move forward with the construction that was awarded to Kemp Brothers. We were just waiting on the agreement and the procurement to be approved by Department of Commerce.
Kemp Brothers, what, barbecue Kemp? No, no. Oh, okay. Okay.
So, Jill, quick question. Is that the one that we pulled the 400,000 from? The Johnson saying yes, you saying no?
Same project area. That's the county's portion.
We had to pull the 400 for that. All right, we already did it, so.
Right, but this is, yes, this is a housekeeping type of issue, but we need to finish. So do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition?
No.
Thank you.
Hey, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we'd like to also talk about negotiation of contract if we're gonna offer to Mr. Bell.
Yes, then that would be fine. Ms. West?
Madam Mayor, please.
Yeah. no
Right,
problem.
that's fine. with me.
Madam Mayor, I apologize. I didn't hear a recap of the motion. Did it pass unanimously or did
Yes.
Commissioner Jones say no?
For what?
No, he said yes. He passed
Okay.
unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that was unanimous, both of
It
them.
was unanimous, yeah.
So,
Okay, back to, the offer and contract, negotiation of the contract, to Mr. Bell, with Mr. Bell, rather.
So I have a motion to allow the negotiation contract to commence with it being brought back to the commission for final approval on Mr. Bell.
before that, Ms. Jones.
Okay.
A little explanation, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so with Mr. Bell being nominated, the commission, if you all will give me a range, I do have the range for the pay to be put in the offer letter. Our offer letters cover a broad range. I think the other contingency clause, our offer letters have a contingency on successful background as well as medical coming back in. So the depth of how far you want the background to be determined here, y'all let me know. To go further into what we've already started with, and I will need to know the range of the offer amount that you would like to be put into the offer letter.
What was the range that we actually advertised?
The range for city manager is 122,304 is the beginning, and it goes to 196,560.
The range. To be negotiated. I don't mean we're gonna give. but
Okay.
You can't change it midstream. You put it out there. It's a
No,
range.
It's
that's a
1.2.
range based on experience. So we make an offer. Say you want to say, I want a step 2 in this offer, which would be like 125. That's what I'm trying to see.
Right.
Which
narrow it
gives,
down.
which gives the candidate or the person receiving it to decline, reject, or accept.
Come back to another offer. So
Okay.
it's negotiation.
Okay.
Right, but I think Ms. Jones is looking for direction as to where the commission wants to stop that.
Where do we want, at the beginning?
I have a question. I have a question.
Sure.
Yes,
Commissioner
sir.
Campbell?
Where were we with pay with regards to our last full-time city manager?
What he was I would have to go and pull that, Commissioner. I don't have it on hand.
I can see if the references are in this contract.
Okay.
I think we started, the last city manager, I'll put 125, I think. That's what was the, starting pay for Don Holmes when we initiated the contract. But that's what I recall from the contract write-up.
I have the contract in front of me, sir. Section 4 of the contract with Mr. Holmes, the city agrees to pay the employee commencing upon May 15, 2020 for his services rendered pursuant hereto at an annual salary of $120,000 payable installments at the same time as general employees of the city are paid. In addition, the city may adjust the said base salary and or benefits to Holmes to such amounts and to such extent as the city deems appropriate upon approval of the commission.
Okay, so I gave him 5 more thousand.
And what, okay, that date was 2020, you said?
Yeah, so
Yes.
what was his exit salary?
That I don't have access to.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
she
let's
pulled-
start with something like that. I would recommend if this, and then keep us abreast and it's a
Okay.
negotiation. We want to give you guys that opportunity.
Okay, so whatever the exit was, the exit salary is what we want to start.
We need
Gotta
to
be a good
determine
start.
what the exit was. We need to determine
Determine.
that before because we don't know, I don't know what the exit was.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I can,
Because if
We're
it's,
gonna get it for.
oh, okay.
And I don't know where, if Commissioner Campbell, do you have any thoughts? See you on the screen.
No, I was just trying to get where he was, and I'm in favor of getting the information with regards to the exit.
Yes, yes.
That's a finance question, isn't it? When you said about the salary, I think that.
was able to,
Could you try to?
And as we discussed this, I want to take in consideration the experience that Mr. Bell has.
Okay, well, yeah, obviously that has to be taken. Well, did you hear that, Ms. Jones? Commissioner Campbell said obviously taking into consideration Mr. Bell's experience in the negotiations.
We just better hope, Don Holmes' salary didn't go down. 'Cause he said, he said exit. I don't know what it was. We know where he started, but we don't want to, we'll double check the exit. It need to be conditioned.
$131,596.
That's currently what the interim is making right now, right?
But that's with an adjustment,
Yeah.
right? Because of the extra.
Yeah, because, yeah, but due to the extra duties, so,
Yeah. So, um, based upon, we know about things we know up here, I think we should start at about what you guys know we could get a good city manager for.
Okay.
And I think, I don't know, but staff have some information on the going rate of a city manager.
Can I confirm
Yes,
regarding
please.
salary?
Yes, yes. So he currently has an offer on the table that is too low. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
So we want to be competitive.
Definitely.
So definitely competitive to whatever that is. And let's move forward to see, can we actually attract?
That's right. You
Let's
don't
go
want
from
to,
there.
you don't want to lose your candidate.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Matt.
Thank you. That's fair direction, or no?
yeah, that's fair. We need to, yeah.
But whatever we do offer, we need to make sure that we're able to afford that in terms of if you push out to the upper limit. So we just want to make sure that we are, if that's the range of the pay grade of what have you, you just want to make sure that we can afford that within our budget, and we need to make sure that our finance director is in agreement with whatever we decide here.
Okay.
Because again, I don't know where we are as it relates to that budgeted amount and where we are currently at as it relates to the state of the city's revenue streams.
Ms. McCaskill.
I agree with Commissioner Forum. We definitely need guidance in this process from our finance director,
Okay.
please.
Yeah.
You can help.
I just wanted to add to Ms. Jones, like, given the fact that we had that 131,596, and then considering the expertise, experience, and the position of the city, et cetera, I kind of estimated 145. So
What,
145, 145.
starting?
Yes,
Negotiation?
a minimum start. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
yeah,
I can go with that.
okay.
Okay, I
And
mean,
that-
minimum start.
Yeah.
And that is something that we can economically.
Right.
Yes.
So I will say that I think if we're gonna be competitive and we want to keep this candidate, we're gonna have to up it.
Well, you
Up it
negotiate.
from
That's what you-
145? Up from 145?
Yes, sir.
So what
Okay.
number are we looking at? We just heard
Over,
from the,
over 145.
we heard the finance, 150,
Yeah, give a maximum, I think.
150.
That, well, yes, and I'm, is that?
We just gave her another.
What, that's, no, I don't agree.
Are we
being a
having to
maximum.
go?
No.
Okay, well, I don't know
We,
what we're doing.
we can just put the offer on the table and just let that be that, because
Okay.
in terms of like the going back and forth, let's put an
Okay.
offer out there
Okay.
and let's roll with it because we don't want to break the bank.
Commissioner McCaskill?
I understand, and it's good. We don't want to break the bank, but we
Right.
need some financial guidance
is-
from our finance director in this process.
She gave us 145. Yeah.
And we were told, what? Am I missing something?
Yeah.
The range
The range.
to 190.
Yeah.
190.
Okay.
So that
And
means
we're
it's
gonna
bunch.
start at 145 and making sure that we know that that's not enough to keep the candidate, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we said 150 was what was suggested,
Start.
to start, to make an offer.
Yeah.
Um,
Start negotiations.
just, yes, to start negotiating.
So are we all set on that point?
All right.
You gave direction to start
Okay, and
negotiations.
you're all
starting
set,
at-
Ms. Jones?
Yes,
in terms
ma'am.
of
That's it.
information for us?
all mine too.
Anything else?
There was a motion on the floor.
I didn't know there was a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Jones to allow the negotiation of contract commence with it brought back to the commission for final approval from
Okay.
Mr. Bell, but I didn't hear a second or a.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor? Commissioner Hibbel, aye. Yeah, his thumbs up, okay. Unanimous.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All, okay, thank you, motion, meeting adjourned, thank you all.